Today, I was going to talk about yeast infections and one herb in Chinese medicine named Huang Bai. Huang Bai. And yeast infections are a very common problem, especially here in the Houston area. It can be a frequent problem that women have. And typically, in Western medicine, actually, yeast infections are somewhat, relatively speaking, easy to treat. It's usually just a single pill that can clear it up, and it usually works pretty well. The problem is, for a lot of women, it can happen over and over, and then every single time you're having to take medications, it can be uncomfortable until you get the prescription. And the question is, why is that happening? Now, in Western medicine, there can be other causative factors, like if you have bad diabetes, that can predispose you to having more yeast infections. And I think also definitely the dampness in the Houston area, the damp heat, especially this time of year, can also predispose that happening more. And so even with Western medicine and treatment options for it, it's still a difficult disease for many people. So one of the herbs in Chinese medicine that is used in this scenario is an herb called Huang Bai, and it literally means yellow fur. It's a yellow colored herb. And this herb actually in Chinese medicine, functionally, it goes to what we would consider the kidney, the urinary bladder. And in Western medicine, we think of yeast infections as originating from the vaginal area, and that's where the yeast grows and you get a discharge there. And it's similar in Chinese medicine. In Chinese medicine, the kidneys are the organ and the urinary bladder are the organ that also controls the health of the vaginal fluid and secretions and helps prevent yeast infections or bacterial infections from developing. And so this herb, Huang Bai, is a herb that actually goes specifically to the kidneys and the urinary bladder. And it's a cool herb, and it's a type of herb that does what we call clear and draining dampness and heat. And so it actually is especially useful for yeast infections and vaginal discharge, especially when you have a yellowish mucus type discharge. That's really the symptoms that we're looking for in Chinese medicine. Now, some people may have yeast infections, but it may not be that yellow type of thick discharge, and that it could be a different diagnosis in Chinese medicine. But if you have yeast infections and vaginal discharge, and it tends to be kind of a yellow, thicker type substance, that's associated in Chinese medicine with dampness and heat. And so Huang Bai is a herb that can be used for that treatment. Now, like most other herbs in Chinese medicine, we don't use it just by itself. So I don't necessarily recommend that you just go out and try to find this at some herbal store and take a whole bunch of it. It's usually meant to be within a formula of other herbs that are also simultaneously doing other things and working in your whole holistic sense for your whole body. But it is an herb that has that function and can be useful for treating yeast infections. All right, we'll see you next time.